This episode of the Buffalonian Podcast is brought to you by the CastSource Podcast Network, a podcast network built with and for entrepreneurs. We cover many genres, including sports, business, mental health, marketing, and entertainment. Feature the podcast shows such as Sports Bring People Together, Limitless, Saviors of the Metaverse, and The Athletic Mindset. Learn more at castsource.com/podcast. Without further ado, let's get into the Buffalonian Podcast. The Buffalo Bills face off against the Cincinnati Bengals this weekend. We'll talk some other games, go over our picks from last week, and we will pick the playoffs for this week. This is the Buffalonian Podcast, betting on the Bills. All right, let's go. Are back with the Buffalonian Podcast. I'm Joe Callie, and today I'm joined by Dom Loss, and Mike will be joining us. Dom will be switching out. It's a hectic day. It's a morning recording, but we'll get through it. We'll get through it. It's the divisional round.
Power through.
So, classes have started for those two gentlemen at private universities, and for me at a SUNY school, not until the 30th. So, we roll with the punches. We work with what we got. But without further ado, Dom and I are going to take you through some of these other games and talk about our picks. And Mike and I will head up the Bills talk as long as Dom's here, and then continue it after he leaves. So, Dom, let's look at the record from last week. Dom 5-1, good week. Me 4-2, both over 500. I forget.
It was a good week.
It was a good week. Yeah,
I think what we agreed on, the three games we all three of us agreed on, we went 3-0 on, and I went 2-1 the three games we disagreed on. So
yeah,
and really, you picked the Chargers, right?
Yeah,
it could have went either way because they blew that game.
Yeah, Lombardi and Staley really pooped the bed on that one. That's all I have to say.
Then I got Dallas over Tampa, and then you picked the G-Men. That was a good upset pick.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. I know I re-listened to the pod before, last week's pod, to see my reasoning, and basically my reasoning was Daniel Jones versus Kurt, and I wasn't totally wrong. But Daniel Jones played very well, and so did Kurt. But so did Kurt. It was just the Giants' defense is just
too good.
It's just way better than the Minnesota defense, and
yeah,
I don't know. I just thought home field would have rattled Daniel Jones to turn the ball over a couple times, but
he was
his credit, he didn't.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no, he was a well-finely-tuned machine that game. We'll see if he can carry it into this week. But no, it was definitely an interesting wild card round. That's for sure. The Bills-Dolphins game in general, we talked about that.
I'm just happy we picked that game right.
Yeah. So, just that game in general, didn't see that going the way it did. So, it's just there were a lot of games. The Chargers had it. What 30 or what was the score?
27-0.
27-0 at half, and then they lost 31-30. Speechless watching that game. I couldn't even think about it, but it'll be interesting if the divisional round keeps up and stays like that. It's going to be a good weekend of football. That's all I have to say.
We had a great weekend last week. All the games were pretty good. I know the San Fran game. The San Fran game was pretty good for two and change quarters, and then San Fran ran away with it. The Monday night game was kind of just a dud.
Yeah.
But the three Sunday games were all very good. Obviously, Jags Chargers lived up in prime time, and last year the divisional rounds I would say were pretty good. 3 game-winning field goals and that touchdown in overtime to beat us. So who knows? Maybe we get a repeat of it this year. I feel like the slate this year is not as good as last year.
Yeah, I feel like it was more competitive last year.
The AFC slate still is good. Last year it was Bengals, Titans, Bills, Chiefs. This year, we still get an awesome 2-3 in Bills, Bengals, and I think the 1-4 is also very good in Jags, Chiefs. So I think the AFC, like those games, and Dallas and San Fran, that's a pretty good matchup as well. But then you get like Eagles Giants, which seems to kind of like be like the one game where it seems like that could be potentially like a mediocre game. But
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
and the way Dallas is boom or bust, like you just never know what team's going to show up. So that game could also kind of not be. And both those games are the night games, so good
yeah.
luck.
And speaking of those games, I think we should chat about some of them. So
Jump right
let
in.
yeah, let's jump right in. Let's take a dive right into first game on the list. Jacksonville Jaguars, Trevor Lawrence, handsome Squidward versus Kansas City, Patrick Mahomes. They're Kansas City's 8.5-point home favorites. Not surprising in this situation. I'm going to be honest with you, just based on previous years too. Not even this year. Just playing at Arrowhead in the playoffs. Trevor Lawrence already said something. Couldn't be that much louder than how our fans were the other night. That's the worst thing you can say. Going to Arrowhead to play, they're going to be just screaming now in spite. So
Yeah,
I don't know.
that place or Arrowhead or Seattle, I think it's Lumen Field. Those two, I mean, like, I love our fans at Highmark, but I think those two, from what everyone tells is those are the two loudest stadiums in the NFL. So
Mm-hmm.
it's a reason why it's the reason why the Chiefs are so good is they get home field. But at least this year, if we advance that far, we don't have to play them there.
Yeah, no, that is, or if they advance that far,
Oh, okay.
upset alert could happen. You know what I mean? But yeah, I mean, I would like to see. It's going to be in Atlanta for us. I don't think we even brought that up. But the AFC Championship, if it's played against the Chiefs, is going to be in Atlanta, which is the Chiefs actually requested, funnily enough, an open field on grass, and they got a closed field on turf to kind of. They wanted to simulate Arrowhead's conditions for themselves. You know what I mean? But
Isn't that the same as? Isn't that would not be the same as Highmark too, though? Open
no,
air
because we
on
have
grass.
turf. That's the only thing.
Oh, we have turf.
Yeah, yeah,
I
yeah.
didn't know
We have
that.
the new stadium's going to have grass, but our current stadium has turf.
Well, oh, they don't. Oh, okay, I know what you're saying. But they don't have the bad. Like, there's like 6 stadiums that have like quote unquote like the bad turf that like kills people's knees.
The turf monster. Yeah, we do
Yeah.
not have the turf monster.
I,
Yeah.
I I I forgot that there's. I'm sorry that I'm not well versed in the
The turf monster.
types of turfs.
Oh my god. No, I
But no, I
mean,
mean this is going to be. I mean, Trevor Lawrence, an emerging quarterback,
mhm,
playing against what everyone would consider to be the top of the mountain, the top dog right now, especially with how Aaron Rodgers and Tom Brady fell off the cliff this year. So it's definitely an intriguing matchup. And I feel like every time we preview a game, we had to say it's a rematch from the regular season.
mhm,
Obviously the Chiefs got the Jags 27-17. That game kind of wasn't even that close.
mhm.
I felt like a lot of things went the Jags' way too, and they still lost by 10 points.
Yeah.
It's a tough place to play. The Jags are a very fun team. To me, it's like I feel like the Jags are just a year away from being true AFC contenders. You know what I mean?
Mhm.
Like, okay, you win a division that's a very winnable division. To say it politely. I mean, the second place team finished 7-10.
Yeah.
Like you had 3-10 lost teams in your division, and then you beat a good Chargers team. Like that was a quality win, but like the Chargers are like a tier below the Chiefs, and now you don't have home field. I don't know. I just feel like Mahomes is kind of unstoppable at Arrowhead, and
Mhm.
Trevor Lawrence is going to have to match him. And I do feel like while Trevor played a great second half, his first half kind of just gets swept under the rug because the Chargers chargered.
Yeah.
But I mean, if he's that sloppy with the football again, he doesn't even have to throw 4 picks. If he throws like 2 picks, I think they're toast. I don't think Jacksonville has like the elite defense either to kind of make up for that.
Mhm.
I mean, so I think that I would say the Chiefs win this one like 35-20 or something. Kind of just maybe it's close in the beginning, but I don't know. I feel like this is like a game where the Chiefs jump out, up 21, 7 earlier or something like that. I don't know. And then the Jags are just kind of playing, pick me up.
Yeah. No, I can definitely agree with that. I mean, it's tough for me because a lot of other teams in the AFC, right? We're going into the playoffs. scolding hot. You know what I mean? Where if you look at Kansas City's last 4 games, I mean, they or not last 4 games. We'll go. So we'll start with the Texans game. They won in overtime at Arrowhead against a team with 1 win. You know what I mean? Like that's like
That was in Houston.
that was in Houston. Sorry. So they won against a team that had no win in overtime because General Mills coughed up the ball, and that was that, right?
Mm-hmm.
The Seahawks, granted, they won over the Seahawks 24-10. Like, there's no question about that. The Chiefs Broncos rematch with Russell Wilson, they won 27-24. And then against a Raiders team without Derek Carr, they won 31-13. For whatever reason, I have this itch right now that we have two Super Bowl winning coaches, not quarterbacks. We have one Super Bowl winning quarterback. Doug Peterson was the difference maker in that other game against the Chargers.
Ex-Chiefs coach too.
Yep. Doug, he was the difference maker in that Chargers game with the way he went about, that second half, and going forward on fourth down, the aggressiveness. We saw that with Philly when they went to the Super Bowl. So I'm gonna take the upset alert on this one. I would just because I would like to see it too, like personally.
Well, I think it's hard. I think part of the reason, what will the Chiefs look after a week off? Kind of always that number 1 seed, whoever gets the bye gets a little bit rusty. I mean, heck, we saw it with Tennessee and Green Bay last year. They both lost.
Yeah.
But with that being said, the Chiefs have had the bye, I believe, like 3 times in
3 years in a row. Or
well, they didn't have the bye last year, but they've had 3 byes in the Mahomes Reed era. 18, they played Andrew Luck on the Colts and stomped them.
Andrew Luck.
I mean, 19 they played Houston, fell behind and then just dominated them. And in 20 they played a close game against the Browns. So I think the Jags must, this is why I'm saying though, I don't think the Jags are equipped as like the Browns were to go into Arrowhead and like control time of possession. I know Mahomes got concussed in that game or choked out, whatever, but like Cleveland was like very efficient running the ball, play action. I'm not saying the Jags can't do that, but they're more of a spread it out, throw in the flats to ETN, throw it to Evan Ingram over the middle, Christian Kirk in the slot, Zay Jones, Marvin Jones on the outside. Like, they're kind of a throw it around kind of team. And I don't know, that reminds me a lot of like the Texans in 19. And they have like above average defense, but not elite enough to do that. A young quarterback like they have with Watson, kind of like a first road test for him. So it's a first road test for Trevor Lawrence. I don't know. I just feel like the Chiefs are going to come out and make a statement.
Alrighty, that'll be an interesting one. That's Saturday, right? That's not Sunday.
That's the first game. Yep, Saturday at 4:30.
Oh, kicking right off into a good one. Hopefully, I mean, hopefully it's not a blowout, but I think it'll be interesting to see how the Jags go about it, especially like how aggressive they are right away and things like that. So I'm glad that's on Saturday. That'll be a good one to kick it off. But without further ado, I think we move into our next one. You want to preview it for us, buddy?
Yeah. So we got the New York Giants against the Philadelphia Eagles. Part 3, second time in 3 weeks, and I think 3 times. This is like the third time in like maybe a little over a month. So kind of a wild scheduling in that aspect. The Eagles are 7.5-point favorites. I think this is gonna be an interesting game. I think actually this is gonna be a tight game. I know I said this could be the Debbie Downer of the bunch. But
might be a low scoring tight game.
I think this is gonna be like a playoff football game. You saw it in week 18. The Giants rested their starters. The Eagles had something to play for, and it was a close game. Davis Webb nearly led the comeback. Back, I believe it was I can't remember if it was week 15. I think it was maybe week 15.
It was January 8th, so it was definitely
that was a little bit ago. But I mean, Gardner Minshew absolutely torched the Giants when he was in. So it's kind of interesting, like what kind of performance from the Giants can you really, really think about? I mean, the Giants I think have an all-right offensive line. They have a stud left tackle, Andrew Thomas. But after that, they're a little weak, and obviously the Eagles' main strength is their pass rush. And I feel like if they're able to get pressure on Daniel Jones, if he turns the ball over a couple times, the Giants are in trouble. But at the same time, Jalen Hurts, they haven't played in a week, so maybe his shoulder's better. But I mean, the last time we saw him was really not that great of a performance. This is also a team that lost, 2 games down the stretch to Dallas and at home to New Orleans. This was a team that was not playing their best football of the season going down the stretch. So I think that's concerning. But I do think the extra rest shoulder wise, they didn't really run Jalen Hurts that much in Week 18. I think that was to just kind of protect him and get the job done, but not. It's kind of like with Josh. You're not going to run Josh against Houston because why would you? You could win without doing that. So
Yeah.
I think with that element, I think they're going to win at home by a field goal. If that Philly crowd is absolutely wild. But I would not be surprised if the Giants, find a way. At the end of the game, you look up and they're winning with 2 minutes to go.
Yeah. No, so you're taking the Eagles on that one?
Yeah, so I would say like 17-14, 20-17. I feel like this is gonna be a slugfest.
Yeah.
It's not. This is not gonna be pretty football. Game 1, Mahomes, Lawrence. I think you might see some 50-yard dimes. This one's gonna be 5-yard runs straight down the middle, right down your mouth.
Quarterback and running back runs,
Quarterback power.
Yeah.
Both him and Daniel Jones run. So
and Daniel Jones has been running very well.
I would take the over on all the rushing totals for either of those guys.
Yeah, I mean, going into this game, it's tough. It's just tough. Like you said, it's going to be an old fashioned, absolute slugfest. It's going to look like Rocky 2 out there. You know what I mean? Just like haymaker after haymaker. It's just had to say Rocky for Philadelphia. You know what I mean? Had to toss that in there. But
and also it's the third. I mean, I know Rocky 2 was the second fight, but I mean this is now the third fight. We saw last week with what happened to the Dolphins and the Ravens, how they were kind of underdogs on the road. But heck, man, they know what you're running. It's hard to beat a team. That's what those teams split. Like the Eagles swept them. Like they had to beat them a third time. So
yeah, and I think that's dangerous because also if you look at it right now, the Eagles are kind of cranking the engine back over to get back to that caliber they were like weeks ago. Before the Jalen Hurts injury and whatnot. The Giants are riding the high right now. They're at the top of the mountain. Like they're feeling good. Daniel Jones is flexing in end zones like we've never seen before. And I think that just mindset, like where you're not cranking up, you're just riding through and you're hot. I think that's a huge difference maker. And you saw the Giants play them January 8th. I know Gardner Minshew gave him a run for it, a couple weeks before that. But they really put everything together in that game. Like even like Isaiah Hodgins being as good as he's been, like that's a huge, huge difference because whenever Daniel Jones also rolls out to whatever side Hodgins is on, Hodgins lays a big block down for him to be able to run. So I think this is going to be interesting. And again, I think it's going to be a slugfest, but I think it goes 3 in the Giants direction. I'm picking the Giants on this one.
Wow.
I'd love to see Dable go. I really would, to the championship. But I think he can because, as I said, the Eagles are cranking the engine over to get back hot, but the Giants are currently steaming. So I'm going with the Giants on this one. And that leads us to our last game, the classic football matchup from decades and decades and decades ago. The Dallas Cowboys versus the San Francisco 49ers. Niners are 3.5-point favorites going into this game. They've the rookie, Mr. Irrelevant, Brock Purdy at quarterback, and the Cowboys have a kicker who missed every field goal extra point opportunity last week against the Buccaneers. And yeah, Jerry Jones, did they get a kicker, Dom? Do you know? I feel like I saw that somewhere.
We're stuck with them 1 for 5 on extra points, but they he's their guy.
All right. I mean, for this one, for me, I feel like the 49ers are just too complete as a team. And I get it. Brock Purdy's a rookie quarterback, and he makes rookie mistakes sometimes, like some throws I watched last week, and they were just, rookie throws, like he overthrew and whatnot. But they have that system that he fits perfectly into and is very cohesive. And you have Christian McCaffrey, you have George Kittle, you have Deebo Samuel. Like you have these weapons where Dallas, of course, has weapons, but we saw them a couple weeks ago. Who did they absolutely poop? Like they
Washington.
Against the Commanders, just completely screwed the pooch. And I think that's the thing with Dallas is the consistency. Um, and I think the 49ers you saw last week, Brock Purdy can play in a playoff football game. So I'm going with the 49ers on this one.
Yeah, I actually think that's an interesting game because I think both teams have a lot of talent.
Mm-hmm.
And honestly, I think I'm leaning towards picking the upset because
Oh,
the Niners in like the Purdy era, they beat Seattle twice, they beat the Cardinals, they routed the Bucks, but we all know like now like the Bucks just weren't a good team at all. Like they got
mm-hmm.
routed at home in a playoff game. So, I mean, and then they also had to go to overtime against Jared Stidham in against Las Vegas.
Yeah.
So their only real quality win was when Purdy came in. I think Jimmy G got injured against Miami. I might be wrong on that.
I think so.
So that was really the only quality win. So for me, I think this is a step up. Like this is the best opponent he's gonna face. This is the best defense he's faced. Like Seattle is not a good defense. They're the 30th ranked defense. Honestly, God, I thought Purdy was very bad in the beginning of the game, and a
Mm-hmm.
couple of the throws he made, like everyone was
That could have
glorifying.
been intercepted.
Yeah, everyone was glorifying him for that one throw down the sideline, but it was a terrible. Like anyone will tell you, like that was a terrible throw because he threw it like on the numbers, and if the safety was turned around, he probably could have picked it.
Mm-hmm.
I think Dallas has a very legit defense. I worry about their corner depth, and that's definitely going to get tested. But I mean, this is a team that last year had Super Bowl expectations, lost in the wild card round on the clock management oof
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
to the
Mike
same team.
McCarthy.
So there's definitely like motivation for the Cowboys to get the job done. This is a defense that's very highly motivated, and Brock Purdy's never faced a defense like this. So I mean, I hate to bet against the kid, but like you got to think at one point he's gonna have a game where he throws 2 picks or something like that. And this is a
Mm-hmm.
defense that, while it's the number 1 defense in the NFL, like Jared Stidham was able to do stuff against them, and Dallas has very good weapons. CD, very good. They use their tight ends very well. Their backs are. I mean, I don't think Zeke's really that good anymore. I think it's like I saw a stat where like his last 40 carries have gone for like 79 yards. But Tony Pollard's a stud. They have a good offensive line. Michael Gallup's kind of playing pretty well recently. I don't know. I think I'm gonna take the upside. I'm gonna say my buddy Brett Maurer, redeems himself with a 45-yard field goal at the gun to win 23-21.
Okay, so you think this one's close too?
I think it is close.
I had it more of a 21-14 scenario. You know what I mean? Like I think the Niners got it by a
The
touchdown.
only thing that concerns me is if that cornerback spot for Dallas gets really exposed and they're just rolling, or Dak pulls a Washington instead of a Tampa, and throws like 3 interceptions, and San Fran gets short fields, and that would concern me. Like the roller coaster, the Cowboys, if they play like what they did against Tampa, I think they're gonna win. But if they play, honestly, if they play like Washington, they're gonna take an L. But
yeah. No, I 100%.
Their ceiling, I think, can match San Fran's ceiling, but their floor is just so low.
Yeah, no, it's like 10-story drop. Like, it's something else with the Dallas Cowboys. Jerry Jones, still there. We know how we feel about Jerry Jones from the Bills Super Bowl era. Jimmy Johnson, Troy Aikman, all those guys. But
the triplets.
Yeah, the triplets. So I don't know. This is definitely going to be an interesting weekend for football. What time is there another Saturday game after the Kansas City Jacksonville game?
The Eagles Giants games like the 8:00 or 8:30 kind of whatever, and then obviously the Bills games at 3. We'll talk about that in a second. And then I think this game, I actually don't know when this game. I think it's 6:40.
Yeah, after the Bills game.
Because I remember like 6:40 was a time last year because the Bills had that slot.
Yeah. Jeez.
Let me just 6:30. It was 6:30, I guess, but
6:30. Well, the Bills had a 5-hour football game last week, so that also could be pushed back if that happens again. So, oh God. All right. So as you mentioned, we have one more game on the slate that we're going to talk about here. The Bills-Bengals game. Mike will be joining in a few minutes. We just got text confirmation, so he'll be popping in. But no, this is this is going to be. I mean, let's just talk for a minute. Pre Damar Hamlin being injured, it was not looking good for the Bills.
I think like the first 10 minutes of the game
Mm-hmm.
is going to be really interesting to see how the Bills prepare off
Yeah.
that. Because offensively, they look good. Like their first
Mm-hmm.
drive, kind of marched right down the field. I would say this though, the reason why I'm not afraid, like the offense, I feel like it's gonna be all right, especially off that first drive. Is it feels like they're having a hard time communicating,
Yeah,
and
Josh would looked very frustrated going down the
like
field.
they called a timeout on a play that that seemed like if they ran it was gonna get like a first down, like 10 yards.
Didn't
But
Gabe get a first down and then they called it back?
yeah, that's what I'm saying. Like they
Mm-hmm.
threw the pass to Gabe, but they already called timeout. Like I feel like that was an audible from Josh. The 2nd and 3 play in the end in the red zone just seemed like all kinds of confusion, and then obviously Beasley kind of not the best throw from Josh, but a throw that's catchable and should have been probably caught. Like I mean, you got to kind of make that as much as Beasley's very pretty good at some of those times. It's weird. Beasley at moments has great hands, and then at I feel like the high and away ones,
He can't get up there.
he gets his hands on them, but like he just bats them down. I don't know. But that's fine. The touchdown drive and the drive that was happening, I just feel like they were moving the ball. They had some good. The touchdown was kind of just. I mean, they were able to move the safety with a good route. They had
Mm-hmm.
said a really good route combination. There was really nothing like. I mean, it was just a better. Sometimes, like I know, like people were getting mad at like Trey White for getting beat, but sometimes like the play call is just better than your defensive scheme. And
Yeah.
that play call was just better. Like he had outside leverage. He expected to have safety help, but there was a route that was in breaking that the safety who happened to be Hamlin at the time, had to take. So Trey then didn't have safety help, and then it looked like he just got beat. But really, it was just the scheme got outplayed. So I mean, it's gonna be interesting how they adjust from that. I think Joe Burrow has really struggled this year against 3-man rushes.
Mm-hmm.
So I think that's gonna be really interesting. I also, looking at the Ravens game, kind of seeing what they did, I think it's interesting that they brought 4, but they did it in unique ways. You know what I mean? Like they would drop the end out into coverage and send a linebacker. So like you could blitz Matt Milano
Mm-hmm.
and drop Greg Rousseau, and they did this. The Ravens did this with their young edge rusher Owe, who was I believe like 6'6", really lengthy guy. Like if you drop Greg Rousseau in coverage 6'6", 6'7", like that's going to have a very interesting effect on that. So I would say the Bills are going to play a game where they're going to make sure they don't get beat over the top, and they're going to be really physical like they did against the Dolphins. They're going to make sure they don't get beat over the top, but they're also going to jump on all these in-breaking routes. That's really what Baltimore did. Baltimore was like, we're going to play off coverage. We're not going to let you beat us over the top. But when you get 10 yards down the field, when you usually do like a 10-yard in or 15-yard in, we're going to play physical, and we aren't going to let we aren't going to let you get that.
Right.
So I think that's what the linebackers are going to have a big game, because I think there's going to be room underneath for the Bengals potentially, and it's going to be Milano and Edmonds in coverage are going to have to do a good job filling the holes, with their length and their athleticism, of just making life very hard for Joe Burrow.
Yeah. No, absolutely. And ladies and gentlemen, before we move on, before anyone else says a thing, Mike Marino's in the house.
Oh, he's back in the library.
Back in the library. Look at that. But yeah, I mean, Mike, we're just chatting about the Bills Bengals game, and we mentioned the first 10 minutes of the first matchup before pre Hamlin injury,
Mm-hmm.
and how we can neutralize what happened on that first drive, how they marched right down and just kind of went for it. You know what I mean? And they went dominant on us quick. So
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. It's just, to me, seeing how they played against the Ravens last week and how they had a backup quarterback as well, like how the Dolphins, like with us, was kind of settling at a certain point. Like, it wasn't like us just pooping. It was they almost pooped too. You know what I mean? So it was like, it was a little, it was nice to see that. Not nice, but you know what I mean. Like it wasn't like they blew them out.
Comforting.
Yeah, they're not riding in as hot. But Joe Mixon seems to think they are. Did you hear what he had to say yesterday? I wish I had that clip
He's
to
been saying
play.
the same thing for the past month every week.
Yeah,
Mhm.
yeah. So, I don't know. I think, I think I don't. I think we'll win this game. Truthfully, I want to win this game, but at the same time, it's going to be like
No,
we were
you don't.
talking.
You don't want to win. You
No,
don't want to win.
right? But we talked about the Giants game being a slugfest. I think this will be a slugfest. So
Yeah, I mean, I think like what the Ravens did is like kind of like the blueprint. I mean, all three of their matchups, Joe Burrow really struggled,
mhm.
and I think it's a copycat lead. So I mean, if the Bills can kind of replicate what the Ravens did, especially now with the Bengals losing 3 offensive line starters and like their other guard position, like their fourth position on the offensive line is not that good, so they went with their center. Like maybe now they don't have to. The Bills have been blitzing a lot. They blitzed a lot last week. Maybe they don't have to do that as much and just do kind of, maybe they blitz a linebacker, but they could drop a D-end in coverage, like I said, and still only rush 4.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I think I don't know. Is anyone else like nervous about this? I have like a little
mean-
a little pit. You know what I mean? In my stomach.
I mean, it's expected to be nervous because like they're the defending AFC champs,
Yeah.
and they're a hungry team looking to get back to where they were last year. They feel like they have unfinished business, and they started the year kind of slow, and then they've picked it up since. And I know Dom, you said this on the show yesterday, how like you got to watch the receivers because our guys really haven't been tested all that much in recent weeks, and we had the Dolphins game where that was going to be our first true test, and they did pretty well, I would say, but Tyreek Hill and Jalen Waddle are going to be a little different matchup than say Jamar Chase, Tyler Boyd, T Higgins, just because I would put Joe Burrow a little bit higher than Skylar Thompson in his decision making and like playmaking ability and like actually being a good quarterback. So I think he's been able to get out really quick this year because his offensive line's never been super good, but his decision making and all that, like their offense isn't super complex or anything. It's just they execute it really well.
Yeah. No, absolutely, and I think there's going to be a lot of emotion in this game, just considering how the whole thing that happened with DeMar playing last time. And just, the competitive nature between these two teams wanting to be the top dog in the AFC. I think, we're not going to see anything like Christian Wilkins, picking a fight or anything like that. But,
I think we might. I think we might see some stuff.
We might get a
It'll
little
probably be
chippy.
scrappy. I said this weeks ago when it was supposed to be the regular season game, but I still think it's going to be like a shootout.
Yeah.
I think it's really just going to go back and forth. I think there's going to be a lull in the game at some point, like maybe like the third quarter or something. But
yeah,
no, I think it's mainly going to be a shootout.
Yeah, I think it's going to be interesting. It's kind of like, when you think about like a score prediction, like I think all of us expected that Chiefs game to be a shootout, but then you look up of 2 minutes ago when it's 20-17.
Mm-hmm.
So it's gonna be interesting to see like if these are gonna be like just really long drives. I think both defenses kind of have like the same mindset of, you're gonna have to go 6 minutes to score a touchdown, not be like Miami and be like we're either gonna force a turnover or you're gonna score in 3 minutes.
Mm-hmm.
But as Mike said about like how Higgins, Chase, and Boyd are different challenges from Hill and Waddle. Like Hill and Waddle are straight speed. You had like they're just going to be able to run away from you. These guys, they're fast as well, but they're just physical monsters at the catch point.
Yeah,
and we've seen, in the past, this is, Trey White's kind of always a little bit struggled. These guys. Kyrie Elam really struggled against George Pickens early. I know that was way in like October, but he had a pretty poor game. But I mean, Kyrie Elam hopefully is the starter, but he's always seemed to step up in the big moments. I think he had the play of the game last week to kind of get them the momentum back. Obviously, he had the big interception against Kansas City. So, if Trey White and Kyrie Elam could hold up in the back end, I think that would be crucial for their defensive scheme.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, absolutely. And just talking about that, I think Trey White has shown he's getting more like you said, you know what I mean? Like he's back into it. That good play he made last week on Waddle, stopping that big catch down the field, like punching the ball out. Like that's what you want to see from him, not pass interference calls, not holding calls. You know what I mean? So I think we're gonna see a better, more complete version of Trey White. Elam better start. If he doesn't, there's going to be, like we said yesterday, there's going to be some, or no, that might have been on the Buff State radio yesterday. We said
no, I just said there's going to be pitchforks and rioting.
Oh yeah, pitchforks and rioting. Yeah,
me.
yeah. Okay, good. Sorry, I just wanted to credit, you know what I mean, the right person there. But I think that's true. I think Elam and Tre'Davious White are your two out there that you want for a lot of that game because they're just the two best, So it'll for sure be an interesting matchup defensively versus the Bengals offense. But I mean, I think we just need to expect a compatible performance from all three parts of the team: special teams, offense, and defense. We talked about that yesterday, how we've been getting pretty much one or the other. Like offense has gone off, defense has faltered. Special teams to a bunch of kick return touchdowns, right? But everything else kind of meh, you know what I mean? And then we've got all defense this past week. Like we need all three of them to show up equally and play a compatible game with
football.
One another. Exactly. Complementary football. And I think calling those timeouts, like we mentioned, McDermott did that a couple times against the Dolphins too. There was one timeout where he jumped up, even though there was a play that was ready to go, and did it. So it was just. Didn't he call back a defensive play or something like that? When he called it, like they called one back, like we stopped them or something like that, and then they ended up punting.
Well, the one play was delay game at the end of the game, but he did, like there was two plays, 4th and 6. He called timeout. They ran the play. They threw like a 40-yard bomb to Dylan Waddle, who was open, so it wasn't like a bad timeout. The result was an incomplete pass, which made everyone mad.
Yeah.
They punted. They also when they were driving in the 4th quarter, I think they called timeout on like a play that they would have been tackling them for a 3-yard loss, but that was a bad look as well. He nearly almost called timeout before the Dawson Knox touchdown. I don't know if anyone wants to rewatch that. The play clock was the play clock was at 0 when they snapped that ball, but
right.
Yeah, listen. Listen, both these teams are like two of the most. This isn't like the Chiefs. Like the Chiefs have a juggernaut offense and like a below average defense that you could probably take advantage of. The Bengals have a very good defense. They have two good linebackers in Wilson and Pratt. Reader's a big monster in the middle. We all know that's kind of a weakness with the Bills' offensive line. Hendrickson's banged up, but he's still pretty solid. Hubbard had the nice touchdown. They have some nice DBs. Like this is a complete football team. The biggest mismatch that the Bills had to take advantage of. I know he's gotten better this season, I think, but we talked about Doug Peterson having a massive advantage over Brandon Staley, and then that came to fruition. Sean McDermott needs to, put his foot on Zach Taylor's neck.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, Sean McDermott's got 8 playoff wins now. You know what I mean?
And he has 4 playoff wins. He's 4. He has 8 playoff games.
8 playoff games. Sorry. Yeah.
I was like, whoa, when do we get 8 playoff games?
Yeah, you're right. No, 8 playoff games. And I think he's got to show his expertise at this point. And I think the biggest thing, like just speaking one more thing on those timeouts, is trust Josh Allen. Trust him. You pay him all that money.
Josh Allen doesn't play defense.
What do you mean? Oh.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah, you got a point. Yeah, defensive-minded coach, but
listen, I'm a big Tremaine fan. Like he's the captain of the defense. So, I would like them to trust the defense, but
I mean, the defense has been solid though. Tremaine's had a couple good weeks. I want to see Matt Milano folding chair.
No, he was mic'd up. Him and Dion were mic'd up for the playoff game.
Oh no way! I gotta listen to that. That's probably some gold right there. Dion especially. After the scrum where he's got the helmet in the hand. I can't wait to watch that.
They didn't show that. I was pretty mad about that.
Oh, they might have had to censor that. It was probably all nothing but obscenities being said in there. So I don't know. But it's definitely, I'm looking forward to this game. Looking forward to watching it. Nervous to watch it. It's kind of like the Chiefs divisional round last year, except I don't know, this feels like you said, like their defense could stop us. We could stop them. Like it wasn't like it was going to be offensive like last year. I think this is going to start out a very defensive game. If I had to pick it, I'm going to say it's going to start out low scoring in the first half. Then the defenses are going to get fatigued, and then it's going to be an absolute just shootout. They're going to be throwing bombs. Like it's going to be going crazy, and then it's going to come down to who can make that last defensive stop. Last year the Bills could not. This year I think they're going to, and that's going to be it. You know what I mean? I think the Bills will come out on top on this one, but I don't know. It's definitely going to be interesting, but it's just nerve-wracking a little bit.
I think it does play into effect having home field as well. I think that'll be a benefit.
Yeah.
I think it'd be a lot tougher game if it was in Cincinnati, just because being away, and then plus you're on that same field. I feel like there'd be like a vibe where there's just bad vibes. So I think being on our field is a little bit of an advantage.
Yeah, Dom's all about the vibes.
We've heard who was it? Someone on Get Up. Was it Rob Ninkovich maybe? And he was like saying how when they come to Buffalo, the locker rooms are like for the away team, it was just like they suck.
Yeah,
it's like bad. It's all mental.
Listen, the Bills are what? I think since 1988, I want to say they're like 13-1 at home in the playoffs. Does anyone know what their only loss was? I'll give major credit to anyone who could.
Wasn't it when they lost in '96?
Yeah, the Tony Baselli Hall of Fame game that Bruce is still salty about. But no, I mean they're 4-0 in the McDermott era at home. I mean both these teams are in like I think 8+ game winning streaks. So I don't know. I think home field is big. It's going to end up being Josh and Burrow. I really feel like Joe, you said it's going to come down to who gets the last stop. I actually think it's going to come down to who gets the ball last.
Oh yeah.
I think I'm probably more nervous for this game than the Chiefs game last year because not really because of the opponent or like the round because it's the same round, but just because it's a year later and you still haven't won a Super Bowl. And now it's kind of, Jordan Poyer on his podcast was like, oh, I might get emotional because by Saturday I might know this is my last home game. Like there's dudes that are probably leaving that are core guys. And so this is the time. Like this is going to be the top of the mountain on your talent pool. And you got to cash in. So,
yeah, because then you're rebuilding positions again, and it's not. You know what I mean?
You have to retool like the safety position, various positions,
offensive line.
Yeah, they should be drafting
possibly
offensive
linebacker if Tremaine's gone.
He better not be.
Leave. But
he's not going anywhere.
I'm gonna have to not pull the Tremaine, but I do have to dip out. But before I leave, I gotta say. I predicted earlier in the pod that Brett Maher was going to kick a 45-yard field goal to win for Dallas. Tyler Bass, 48-yarder.
Oh, okay.
Going to look like it's going wide right. Going to go off the upright and in.
Okay.
27-24 Bills.
Don't say that.
24-21 Bills?
27-24.
27-24.
Oh,
all right.
Oh, God.
Well, Dom, we'll see you, buddy. Have a good class. He's gone.
He's full send left.
I think he might still be here. I think I accidentally hit remove from stream. No, he's gone. He's actually gone. All right. So let's we'll chat a little bit more and then wrap it up. But I mean, what's the biggest thing, like position wise? Like the biggest, I don't know. We'll call it an X factor, if you will. Like the Bills need to really activate over the Bengals.
I think it's got to be our secondary here. Our corners really need to step up because, I mean, I've already said how much like Chase and Burrow just have that chemistry going back to LSU, stopping Higgins, stopping Boyd, Joe Mixon. Like these secondary guys need to step up. Like I trust Trey. Elam had a really good first game, but he's still a rookie. Poyer needs to show that he's an all-pro still, and they just really need to be locked in this game because in an instant, those guys can get yak yards and be gone. Flip the game. Right.
Yeah, you're going to let Jamar Chase just fly down the field after burning one of our secondary members. So, I don't know. I would agree with that. I think also we got to put some pressure on Joe Burrow. I think we're going to need a good week out of Greg Rousseau.
Yeah.
As I said earlier, just a couple minutes ago, I want a folding chair sack from Milano. I want him to absolutely just plow into him. Not to hurt Burrow, of course.
Yeah.
But you know what I mean? Like just to do it.
Just rattle him a little bit.
Yeah, because if you rattle Joe Burrow and have him worried about pressure, and then you start dropping back and doing a 3-man rush maybe and like really just messing with him. Frazier just needs to be craftier than his stupid nickel defense that he runs the entire game, win or lose. You know what I mean? Like he doesn't really adjust very much to it. It's just like he's like, my defense is my defense, and it's going to win games or it doesn't win games. But what he did against the Chiefs earlier this year, he had half the field in man coverage and half the field in zone coverage. And then why aren't we doing more of that? Like, be the Brian Dable of a defense and do some tricky stuff. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So I think stuff like that, I think they're going to just need
Mm-hmm.
to be crafty and like actually have a defensive game plan other than nickel zone. You know what I mean? So
no, just going back to like pressure here. We're definitely missing Von Miller. I mean, this was the main purpose why we signed him for this time of the year, and it's just really unfortunate that we don't have him. And it's been noticed. Like Russo didn't really do much in the Dolphins game. You had Shaq at a sack. I think Boogie had a sack too. But like you just need more consistent pressure. And it's like at Oliver, like he was having a good year and he really didn't do much that first game. So, you guys were saying how Cincinnati's offensive line's banged up. Let's take advantage of that. Joe Burrow can move, but he's not like Allen where he can just constantly run.
Right. I would say he's the next evolution of a pocket passer. I wouldn't say he's a pocket passer like Brady, but like he can get out and move, but where Allen and Mahomes and Herbert and Lamar, like they'll run.
Yeah.
Burrow doesn't run. You know what I mean? They're not going to do a QB power with him or anything like that, No. So it's definitely going to be interesting. Just kind of seeing how it starts out, because as I mentioned with Dom earlier before you joined in, they were dominant coming down the field right away. They won the coin toss, did not defer. They took the ball and just put up a touchdown right away.
Mm-hmm.
They wanted to show who they were right away.
Mental thing right there too. They're sending a message.
Yeah, and I think McDermott, the biggest thing is after past couple weeks, he's been doing the thing with the timeouts when Allen's running the play clock down. You pay the guy so much money, he's done nothing but show that he could be trusted and whatnot. Like, just let him run his offense at this point. Like he's probably gonna down on the field know better than what Dorsey's gonna pull up top. You know what I mean? Like if he sees something, let him see it and change it.
No, yeah, but I mean you got to manage that. You can't take those stupid penalties that delay games, and then like defensively, he took a timeout for like a matchup reason or something, and you know he felt like maybe the play would break down and they'd build up a big gain or something. So he's got to manage that. But it's just it is unfortunate when he does take the timeout and the play happens. And we see that it's like a positive play for us, and then they get a second chance at it. But, thinking about it, like it's kind of like, 2020 split. Like you guys see maybe a big play happens and then they come up and say they took a timeout, so it doesn't count. And then it flips. But we don't know. We just it's just all clock management. You're not like John Harbaugh.
No. Yeah. So. No, speaking of clock management, the Dolphins had none of that last week.
Yeah, and Mike McDaniel.
Mike
clock management.
So I don't know. I mean, if you had to say like who wins this game for us at the end of the day, like if you had to pick an MVP, offensive or defensive, could be, because it's tough to split it into two, because truthfully the defense could poop and it could be the Josh Allen show. You know what I mean? So like who would you say is the difference maker and wins the game for the Bills?
I'm gonna say someone that's stepped up numerous times throughout his postseason career, and it's got to be Gabe Davis. I mean, we saw in the most important game last year against the Chiefs how he had 4 touchdowns. He just was rattling off plays. Even last week, he had some great plays, great catches. So I think there's something about him in the playoffs. It's just he turns it up. I think he's going to show it again.
No, I would agree with you. Playoff Gabe has entered the chat. He's definitely, I don't know, it's a mental thing. He's just turned on all of a sudden in the playoffs. When Diggs is double covered like he was last week, I mean, he was getting completely blocked. Like you weren't going to throw to Diggs very much. Davis got open, made some crazy catches. Beasley also, I think, will be big. Even what's his name? Shakir. I think you need to use Shakir more. I mean, he dropped one, which should have been a touchdown if he got up and ran. But I mean, the other 50-yard bomb that was thrown to him, he caught. You know what I mean? So I think James Cook's going to be huge, running the ball. Singletary. I think you just need to have a complementary offense.
We just can't be taking these stupid shots down the field when we don't need to. That's the main thing. If we're up by like 1 score and it's late in the game, do not take shots. Just run the ball, take checkdowns, quick slants, out routes, just burn the clock and try and get first downs. Like there's no need to take those shots.
As much as I love to see Josh Allen gain 60 yards on his passer rating every drive just from one pass, there's a time and a place. Like
it's not Madden.
If it's 1st and 10 and you're tied up, take a shot, whatever. You know what I mean? Like just let it rip. But don't put the ball in harm's way. Like throw it on an out route towards the sideline. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So if it bounces out, it's incomplete, not picked off. So I don't know. It's just like play smart offensively, defensively. I think Gabe Davis is going to have a huge game. I'd love to see 4 touchdowns out of him, but I don't know if that's going to happen. At least a couple, I would say. I want to see Shakir do well. I just want to see the wide receiver core have a day. I think truthfully that's going to be it. And spreading the wealth, I think that's going to be huge compared to the Diggs-centric show we saw the first couple weeks, and then which continued through a lot of the season. You know what I mean? So I think we're moving past that, and Dorsey's moving past that. So he's actually interviewing Saturday for the head coach job for the Panthers. I
hate that. How they can have coordinators, still interviewing like coaches and all that. It's like just let them focus on their team. Yeah, let them focus on their team, like their games. Like they shouldn't be focused on head coaching jobs right now. Like Carolina will get their coach. Like they can wait a few extra weeks.
Well, that's what I'm saying.
They really want Ken Dorsey. They can wait a few extra weeks.
Yeah, just watch him from your couch and then study and then have him come in for an interview. That's all you have to do. But I don't know. And then do you have any what's your final score prediction for the game?
I think it's going to be 38-34 Bills.
All right, I like that. I mean, I think it's going to be high scoring. I think this is going to go 42-35. I think the Bills win it on a last touchdown. I think that's it. You know what I mean? I think we're driving down the field in the fourth quarter with about 150 left, and we cut them up and we go get a touchdown after tying it up. So we can't. Also, one other thing, just to add on here at the end, no fumbles into the end zone, no turnovers. Like, come on, like be careful.
Yeah, no, I agree. Josh has got to be careful with those turnovers.
Yeah, because he almost had another one in the beginning of the game.
Yeah, I feel like in this game, if you're picking between Joe Burrow and Josh Allen, who's going to make the mistake of turnovers, it's going to be Josh Allen.
Just because he's that gunslinger too.
It's no knock on his ability or anything. I just think he'll have a fumble or something when he's trying to run, or some pick from like a 50-yard bomb or something. Yeah,
no, I agree with you, but let's hope that doesn't happen.
Yeah,
and I don't know. I think we can come out with the win. I think it's just got to be complimentary football, as Dom said before he popped off.
Yeah.
So I don't know. I think the Bills can definitely win 42-35, and you said 38-34.
Yep.
All right, I like it.
We'll see what happens.
Yeah, but without further ado, that's going to end it for this edition of the Betting on the Bills Buffalonian podcast. And I'm Joe Kelly. I was joined by Dom Loss and Mike, who's still here with me. And Dom's not here, so Mike, how do you always end these, buddy?
Well, I'll step in. I'll say go Bills.
Go Bills, baby.